just want to go on a mini rant about the Acolyte. I've avoided making a full YouTube video. I've shared my 2 cents on the different episodes on TikTok and then repurposed them on Instagram. And then I shared a little clip from one of my TikToks on my YouTube Shorts, but I wanted to wait until the very last episode before I decided to kind of go all in and give a comprehensive, all 8 episodes, full series, well, full season, I should say, review on The Acolyte. But there was something about episode 6 that I can't quite ignore. And it's not so much what happened in the episode, but more so the response and also Leslye Headland's explanation. So the thirst trap, I want to talk about that part. If you're not familiar with The Acolyte, it's this god-awful television show on Disney Plus. It's bad. It's all bad things. It's terrible writing, terrible acting. The story is just too slow for its own good. We're not moving anywhere. It's an 8-episode season. Each episode is like 28 minutes long. Like, they advertise it as being like 35 minutes, but when you take away the intro, the recap, and also the end credits, which are hella long, by the way, it ends up being like 28 minutes each episode, and nothing's happening in any of these episodes. So much filler, it's ridiculous. The story's just not moving forward. The character development is just non-existent. I'm getting on a tangent. So we had episode 5, which was the most exciting episode of the season, and then we get into episode 6, and it's just back to this lackluster, humdrum, nothing's happening. But it looks like in episode 6, they're trying to build up this possible relationship between our main girl, Osha, and the stranger, Smilo Ren, as they call him on TikTok and Twitter, or Kimir. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I don't care. We met this dude, I believe it was episode 2. Then we revisited him again in episode 4, where they basically told us this is the mystery Sith guy. Like, there's no sense of foreshadowing. You know, they're basically spoon feeding their audience. So if you're one of those, oh my God, I love it, it's so good, they literally think you're stupid. They think you're too dumb, that you're not clever enough to really just figure things out on your own. They don't want you to, because this is so agenda heavy and it's all about pushing a certain agenda and putting things in your face. They don't want you to miss it. So in order for you to not miss it, they have to spoon feed you different things in the plot. The problem is this is so agenda heavy, it's plot light, it's character development light. I don't care what happens to anybody, but again, that's not what I want to talk about. That's my biggest rant, is character development. It's one of those things I tend to focus on when I'm watching film or television, is character development. I don't know why. I've always been like that. Going and talking about episode 6, where we have this unfolding of a new relationship, which I feel like it's too late. We have 2 episodes left, and all of a sudden you want to introduce this relationship, and we've had no tension build up until this point, but it's supposed to be symbolic and metaphorical, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's important for us to see this villain as vulnerable. We really haven't spent any time with him. He's always been a shadow off into the distance. We haven't really seen much of him. Like, we really haven't gotten a sense, even with the mask on, we haven't gotten a sense of his character. Like, we don't have to see his face to get a sense of like who he is, what he stands for, his values. We haven't gotten anything up until this point. All we have is May, who is about as interesting as a block of celery. And I'm frustrated. So we get this kind of thirst trappy moment between Osha and Quamir, because of which seems to be the way to go to get Osha from place to place, is to knock her unconscious, and then she wakes up somewhere else. She wakes up on this mystery unknown planet with the bad guy, and she wakes up, finds a knife, she realizes she's in May's dark clothes, and she goes outside, and our villain is about to go skinny dipping, strips off his robe, and goes into the water. And it's supposed to be this moment where we're seeing his vulnerability. He's vulnerable in this moment because now she's the one with the knife. His lightsaber is there where she can reach it. She's got it. And, it's supposed to be this moment where she's at his mercy and we're seeing him vulnerable. It's supposed to be this visual metaphor of him being naked. And according to Leslye Headland, it had to happen this way. We had to see him vulnerable. We had to get to the humanity part because we saw such ruthlessness in episode 5 that we needed the stripped down version of this man in order to really see all of him, which makes no sense. I think of the song, this is the first thing that came to mind, the song Layla by Eric Clapton. You have the regular normal version, and then you have the stripped down version. That's like saying in order for us to really truly appreciate and understand what this song is about, we have to have it stripped down. No, there are multiple layers to human beings, but the problem is the writers, when it comes to building their characters, they don't know how to create layers. We don't need to see him stripped down naked, at the mercy of a weapon to get the idea that he is human and vulnerable. But the problem is that was their goal with this scene. I don't think it succeeded. Number one, you kind of have to gauge audience reaction and how people responded to him. Now, I'm looking at this article right here. It's there for you to see. And they're talking about this particular scene and what Leslye Headland's expectations, what she wanted out of it. And she says, but again, the dynamics had to be what they are, what he did in episode 5. He cannot seem like an alpha, male-y, intimidating. We know he's capable of that from 5, but that cannot be his dynamic with her. I don't think that's what came across. I don't, and I say that because this is a problem with Hollywood, is they have no idea what's happening outside of themselves, outside of their own little bubble. And I don't think they really understand women, because for whatever reason, Hollywood has it in their head that women being feminine is a bad thing, and that men being masculine is a bad thing, and that when these two complement each other, as beautiful as it is in real life, it's ugly to see on film. But I think they forget, so many women are just deprived of that balance. They seek it out in books, in film, and the type of women that would be attracted to this kind of dynamic, they seek that masculine male out in film and in books. And that's the women who are drawn to this scene, who are being drawn to this scene, which is crazy to me, but we can get to talk about why that's crazy another time. They're the ones who are being drawn to this. So your idea that, well, he's not an alpha male type, he's not intimidating, you failed. Or else you wouldn't be drawing these type of women. There's something very in charge and in control about him. The idea that you really thought that him being naked and him being without a weapon would make it appeared would somehow he would come across as vulnerable. No, I think you underestimate the way women think, which is crazy because most of this was written by women. But the thing is, he was never not in control in that scene. And that's what makes that scene so attractive. Hell, I was drawn to it. I have no problem admitting that. It was the control, the fact that he was in complete control of that entire scene. He was never vulnerable. He was never scared. He was never at her mercy. He knew exactly what was happening. He was very much confident and in control. I don't know what they mean by alpha male or intimidating, but it doesn't quite translate with the average female viewer. I don't think they quite succeeded. This part in bold is the interviewer, Maggie Covid, I think is her name. She says, talking about this episode and just the different symbolism and all that jazz, I think that also creates some of the best dynamics in storytelling. Speaking about costumes and symbolism, I like how this relationship, for those of you who are older, I love how this ship plays with gender norms. You have this flowy outfit that Quimir has on, and Osha is a mechanic, sort of. I see people starting to pick up on that a little because he's so femme-coded, and his clothes and the fact that he's cooking for her, he's very soft-spoken, and then you have her wearing the pants and being like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna shank you. Okay, so this show, let's be real here for a hot second. This show is very much about introducing LGBTQ themes into Star Wars. We're not going to sit here and pretend like this was made with good intentions, that this was made to expand the Star Wars story. This is a DEI project from the very beginning. It's all about forcing these themes and forcing diversity into Star Wars when it was never necessary. And I'm talking about LGBT because this right here, the surface level gender stereotypes, he's very femme-coded, and you giving examples about the clothes that he's wearing and the fact that he's cooking, the fact that he's soft-spoken, that these are somehow femme-coded. How do I explain this? This to me is a good example of kind of the divide between ideologies and also between Hollywood and the rest of the world. Because most people would not interpret those things, the fact that he's wearing what would be considered traditional clothing, the fact that he's cooking, or the fact that he's gentle with Osha and he's kind with her, or the fact that, he's very soft with her or soft spoken as being femme coded. Most people would interpret that as him being masculine, in control, the fact that he's caring for her. In some spaces, that's called aftercare. But pushing these very surface level and regressive ideas of what it means to be a woman or what femininity looks like and trying to force that onto the masses, but it doesn't match real life. It doesn't translate very well. So I think it was Amanda Stenberg who at some point, there's somewhere an interview somewhere where she talked about how, people are afraid of these themes of LGBT coming into this space. No, people are not afraid, they're annoyed. They're annoyed because so much of the LGBT that's being pushed is not like the LGBT of old, which I mean like maybe 10, 15 years ago, where it was just representing gay people as no different than anyone else, but they're trying to present LGBT as an ideology, as something different and extra and more progressive, when it's very regressive. If you think that cooking and being soft-spoken and that wearing long flowy clothes, light colored clothes is femme coded, you're not progressive. I don't know what to tell you. But also talking about how women in the real world would interpret that differently. They see he's cooking for her and that he's soft spoken. He cares for her. He's gentle with her. That's masculinity. That's masculinity to a T. That's an alpha, a man who cares for his woman in that way, who sees to her needs, who meets her on her level, who gives her the space to be feminine and vulnerable. The problem is that Amanda Stenberg as an actress, opposite Manny Jacinto, she sucks. But this is also the beauty of smut in general. Now, this isn't smut, but it reads like it because we have an FMC who is just who is annoying, unremarkable, forgettable, that it's so easy to just push her to the side and step in her place. And so a lot of that tension that people are feeling, a lot of that chemistry that people are feeling, it's not between Quamir and Osha, because again, there's nothing going on behind Osha's eyes. No thoughts and very little vibes. Like there's nothing happening here. Nothing's going on. So that chemistry, because she's not playing into it all. She's just a blank face. She's just reading her lines. She's just present. She's just there to do her job, which is to be the Black queer female on set. That's literally it. I'm sorry. Come at me if you will. But there's nothing happening. So the chemistry and the tension that you're feeling is not so much between him and her, but it's between him and you, female viewer. You're feeling that tension because you're her. That's how it works. That's how a lot of escapism with romance and erotica, it works, is that these women in these movies and in these books are so unremarkable, unforgettable. It's easy to kind of look at them as a blank canvas and then step inside of their shoes and just be them for a little while. And so that's your man for 90 minutes, or that's your man for 386 pages. Does that make sense? But this is, for me, it just seems like it's a reoccurring theme. Now, I saw the movie Furiosa a couple months ago. So what, May? So around Memorial Day weekend. God, that feels so long ago. But one of the things that I was impressed with that movie, oh Lord, Amazon guy just came, scared the mess out of me. So one of the things that I was impressed with that movie is that it felt like we were returning to real women in movies. Because yes, she's strong, she's a boss, but she's also feminine and she's vulnerable and she's nurturing and she's all the things that make us as women without having to compromise. She is all of the things. She's strong and she's fearless and she's a force to be reckoned with. She can be all those things without sacrificing her femininity. And it seems like for the longest time that Hollywood couldn't create a female protagonist that was strong and fearless and a boss and feminine. It's almost like feminine in females was the worst thing ever. in the same way that masculine in men was the worst thing ever. Like the last few male protagonists we've had in however many movies, you know, the men have been weak and they've been weepy, kind of betas. They haven't been leaders. They haven't been strong. It's women taking their place. But the problem is when women step into these masculine roles and do away with their femininity, nobody likes them. They're insufferable. They're boring. You're ready to kind of do away with them. So the male protagonist ends up being the most interesting person in the show or in the movie. And we're kind of seeing that here because the whole point of Osha and May is that they're kind of stripped of that femininity and everyone else is kind of carrying that weight. We had Yord playing into that femininity. We have Soul playing into that femininity because again, this is regressive stereotypes. So being vulnerable and being sad and being emotional is seen as being feminine. They're carrying that Hollywood feminine weight. And we have this female protagonist who is stripped of her femininity, which for whatever reason, I don't know why this happens in Hollywood, that when we strip women of their femininity, we strip them of their personality. It's like they can't do two things at once. And now we have this boring as I don't know what lead actress who I'm like, can we just like get rid of her because she adds nothing. Every time she shows up on screen, she's an absolute bore. She doesn't bring any life. She really depends on that person opposite her to bring life to that scene. She doesn't do it at all, which is kind of hard to do for the other person in a series where the writing is just so dang bad. But I digress. It's just the forcing of this agenda, it just doesn't translate well in real life. People are annoyed by it, for one. The whole boss babe, I don't need no man, female protagonist. Nobody likes her. We're tired of seeing her. And we're tired of seeing women being stripped of their femininity. And for whatever reason, with Hollywood, when they strip women of their femininity, they're also stripping them of anything that's likable. They're stripping them of anything that's personable, personality. All of that goes by the wayside. But yeah, I just thought that was very interesting. They really thought that they were going to give this male protagonist and make him femme-coded and say he's not going to be alpha male, he's not going to be intimidating. Babe, he's all of those things. That's alpha. That's a boss. That's an alpha right there. I don't know what you thought. I would love to know what alpha looks like to them because the women of TikTok do not agree. They're ready to go to the dark side. I'm literally seeing comments on TikTok for girls who are like, oh yeah, I will totally watch this. Crazy, right? Because this is a female show. This is all about pushing women and more women into the Star Wars universe. This is a show that is for women by women, that's supposed to center women, and yet women are being drawn to the show because of the hot male antagonist. It's like you don't know us at all. That's just how I'm feeling about that. I don't know if I'm going to do another one of these. We have another episode coming out tomorrow, and then we have the final episode next week. But next week, you will hear from me a comprehensive review. God bless us all. But anyways, how are you enjoying The Acolyte or not? Oh, I have to ask those of you, if you're able to leave a comment, who is your favorite Star Wars commentator right now? Because I know for many people, myself included, the YouTube commentary is far more exciting than the actual show. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to hear from you, and see you next time.